I really, really hope these jars don't fuck with this month because that would ruin my birthday. Oh, oh no. Hey guys, my name's Angus and today we're going to be wrapping up my reading stats for April as well as everything that I read and then going through my TBR Reaping and remainder TBR for May. It's already May, which is a good thing actually. It's my birthday this month. I'm turning 22 on the 14th of May, so that's exciting. I also am kind of scared that I'm turning 22. It's a little bit scary. Anyway, that's besides the point. You guys know why we're here. You already know what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start off with going through my reading stats for April 2021. So I read 9 books in April and a total of 3,717 pages, which is relatively similar to last month. And that brings my total for the year to 37 books and 14,060 pages, which means I am now 4 books ahead of my reading goal, which is great. I'm pretty far ahead and I don't seem to be burning out. So I think I'm getting in a good rhythm and balance with reading. In April, I read 7 fiction books and 2 non-fiction books, which is cause for a celebration, honestly. I haven't read 2 non-fiction books since January, so go me. I'm finally pulling my weight again. So compared to last month, that is a better ratio, obviously. I like the idea of roughly 20% non-fiction per month and 80% fiction. I think that's a nice ratio for me, so that's probably what I'm gonna aim for from now on. My average star rating in April was 3.89, which is a big jump. I read a lot more 4, 4.5 and 5-star books this month, although the gap between the lower rated books and the high rated books is quite jarring. Like it's either a low rating or a really high rating. No 3 or 3.5 star books this month. Compared to last month, we are up by 0.67 stars, which I'm happy with. I definitely read a lot more outliers this month, as I said. Last month, they were a bit more bunched together around the 3-star mark, but yes, I'm glad I had no books below 2 stars this month. That was really nice. In terms of genre this month, things seem to split up suspiciously evenly. Like those are a lot of whole numbers, which we don't usually see. My biggest genres this month were mystery, horror, and contemporary at 20%, thriller at 15%, YA and fantasy at 10%, and economics at 5%. Comparably, this is another noticeable shift for me. I'm definitely moving away from YA, which is sad but kind of inevitable. Mystery, horror, and thrillers are definitely the future of my reading. Those are the genres I enjoy the most. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop reading YA. It's just not going to be as big a part of my reading as it used to. In terms of page count, we did it. I read 1 book over 500 pages this month, thank God. It's been a while since we've seen any figures on that chart. So yes, 11.1% of my books were over 500 pages, 66.7 were between 300 and 499, and 22.2 were under 300. Mind you, the book that I read that was over 500 pages was like 850 pages, so that should really count for more than it does. But yeah, compared to last month, things are spread a bit more widely. Last month I read mostly in the middle range, but this month there seems to be a bit more action in those outlying page ranges. Looking at my reading moods, this month I read 28% reflective, 26% mysterious, 15% emotional, 12% informative, 11% dark, and 8% adventurous. And compared to last month, once again, things are flipped on their heads because there's still that general mood associated with thrillers and horrors that's been a mainstay in my stats. But reflective really took the cake though here, and that's probably due to my 2 nonfiction books. And that in conjunction with informative is like 35% of the graph, which is wow. And finally, my monthly reading habits graph. As you can see, I read 9 books, which is the same as last month. However, this month I've included a second line on the graph for my pages read, so you can kind of see the correlation. So yeah, the same books this month, but about 300 more pages than usual. Okay, now that that's all out of the way, we're gonna go through everything that I read in April. So the first book that I read this month was Rules of Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. I picked this one up out of the blue. I wasn't planning on reading this. It caught my eye when it came out last year, but I didn't get around to reading it until now, and I'm so glad that I actually did read this because I thoroughly enjoyed it. Rules of Perfect Murders, or 8 Perfect Murders as it's called in the US. I don't know why they changed the title, and I have both the UK and the US edition. So this book sets up like a series of unsolved murders that all link back to like 8 classic mystery novels from history. And so when the FBI is investigating this case, they start to notice this pattern. And when they Google the names of the books the murders are from together, this one blog post comes up that lists all 8 of the murders that have been replicated. And it was posted by the owner of a used mystery bookstore. So the FBI goes and visits this guy, and then it's like a wild goose chase of trying to solve these mysteries before they happen, because they kind of have the list of books they can work off and they're trying to figure out which one's next. Anyway, this was such a romp, such a fun time. I had so much fun reading this. It's such like a brilliantly crafted, cozy crime novel that you can really like sink your teeth into. Really quick and easy too. And the characters are fantastic. This book feels like it's written by like a master of mystery writing. Very entertaining and engaging. I gave this one 4.5 stars, I think. I'm really excited to read the rest of Peter Swanson's work because this one really grabbed my attention. Alrighty, the next book that I read was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This is like a horror thriller novel about 4 American Indian men who are haunted by this demonic spirit hell-bent on destroying their lives because of an incident from their childhood. They went on an elk hunt, and yeah, it's very dark. This book is very dark and very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like doomed? A lot of doom in here, because we kind of know that nothing good is going to come out of this. Once again, I absolutely loved the character work in here. Very, very lovable characters. I don't know, which you don't get a lot in a horror novel. I want to spend some time with these guys in a normal situation where they're not being hunted down by an evil demonic spirit. That would be nice. In saying that though, I did really enjoy this. It's very graphic. I will say that. The gore descriptions are very detailed. We really get down to the blood and the bone. But I really want to read more of Stephen Graham Jones's books. I just don't really know where to start because he has so many. So I need to figure that out. But yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Alrighty, and the next book that I read was Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. This is an absolute tome. 850 pages, I think. Yes, 850 pages, a brick. But this is like one of my new favorite books of all time, honestly. I enjoyed this so much. So clever. So f***ing clever. I loved it so much. I kind of thought this might be a new favorite going into it, but yeah, it's just fantastic. Just so well crafted and so unsettling and f***ing terrifying at some points. The huge themes it deals with as well, I just thought were so like cleverly weaved together. If you don't know, this book is about 7-year-old Christopher and his mother who are fleeing an abusive like stepfather. So they go to this town. Everything seems cool. But then one day Christopher just disappears. He vanishes. And for 6 days we don't see him. Turns out he was in like the woods. For 6 days he doesn't have any memory of what happened. But he's not the same boy that went into the forest. He's changed. He's suddenly really, really smart. And he has this voice in his head telling him he has to build a treehouse in the forest he went missing in by Christmas. Otherwise everyone is going to die. So very ominous. That's like the first like 150 pages. And then there's so much more that happens. It's really weird because you get past the first like 2 parts and it feels like that's its own book. And then you kind of like, well, why are we still here and where is it going? But then everything comes together. It all clicks by the end and everything makes sense. You kind of understand why we're here for 850 pages. If you're going to pick this up, stick with it. It is a bit draggy in the middle, but it kind of needs to be to get there. Deals with some really huge themes at the end about religion and mortality. And so good though. Definitely one of my favorites of the year and of all time. I'm really glad I picked this up. Of course, I gave it 5 stars. The characters, phenomenal, like so good. This is like a love letter to Stephen King and it just does everything so well. So clever. Alrighty, the next book that I read last month was The Big Four by Agatha Christie. You're probably wondering why I picked this up. That's a lie. I do know why I picked this up. Last year, at the start of the year, I wanted to do this stupid challenge where I tried to read all of Agatha Christie's books in publication order. Did not work out. I got through like 4 and had enough because they're all kind of the same. I did like some of them. The Mysterious Ferret Styles is a good book. I really like that one. That's her first book. But this was supposed to be one of her best, and the main setup is like these 4 masterminds have come together across the globe and they're trying to gain world domination, and we don't really know why. We don't really know what their motives are or what they want to do with the world, but we just know we have to stop them because I guess we have to. Anyway, it's just kind of ridiculous. And this book was actually published originally as like 4 little novellas, I think, in the newspaper. So that's why it feels so like stilted. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy this. I mean, it was like entertaining enough to like go along with the mystery, but quite basic. I think I gave this one like 2 stars. Okay, the next book that I read was Rodham by Curtis Sittenfeld, and this is a weird one to get your head around. I read this because I drew a prompt out of my reading jar to read a book with a one-word title. So Rodham, this is like a reimagining of Hillary Clinton's life if she didn't marry Bill Clinton, which is a bit of a weird thing to get your head around because you're reading like a fictionalized memoir that like rewrites history about a very public political figure. But it works. It comes together. I tell you, like it really does come together. I do quite like stories about high profile people and like the workings of politics. So I feel like that helped me a bit. I feel like if you don't have an interest in that, you probably won't enjoy this as much because a lot of it is about the behind the scenes of politics. It's really weird, but it works. Like, it works so well. It's so well researched and so detailed that it feels like I felt like I was reading a memoir. I kept having to remind myself that this isn't real. Like, the stuff happening in here didn't happen. So yeah, my only main gripe with the book was where it ended. I feel like we could have had a little bit more. It ends at such an interesting point, but yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. Okay, the next book that I read was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. All I have to say about this one is it's as good as BookTube says it is. It's so beautifully written. This book is written like a letter from a Vietnamese immigrant son to his mother who doesn't know how to read. So he's just kind of writing about their life and their move to America and just all the little things which are really get to you. So beautifully written. I gave this one 4 stars. 4.5 stars. Ocean Vuong is also a poet. So it's like really condensed fiction. Like every single word is important. And because of that, it's quite dense. You kind of have to read it slow to take everything in. But there's so many passages in here that I just highlighted and I just want plastered on my wall. It's so beautifully written. Yeah, fantastic. Like I don't have, you know. Okay, the next book that I read was Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. I read this because I drew it out of my unread books jar for my TBR Reaping. I initially tried to read this when it first came out. I read like 50 pages and my first impression was I wasn't really into it, wasn't really my thing. And reading it fully, trying again, same feelings, honestly. It's just not really my thing. Like it sounds like quite an interesting book. It's quite a fun premise. Like with this girl who gets sucked back in time and has to go on like a interdimensional time travel quest to find these clues that this previous traveler has left for her. I was really bored reading this. It wasn't a book for me. I think I gave this one 2.5 stars. Like it's not poorly written. It's not a bad book. It wasn't really for me, unfortunately. Okay, and the last 2 books I read were non-fiction. The first one was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Rick Morton. This is like a memoir about, Rick Morton is like an Australian journalist and author. He did a book talk at the bookstore I work in, so I actually met him. He's such a lovely guy, and listening to him talk convinced me to read his book. I'm really glad I read it. It's excellent. Yeah, so like I said, it's like an exploration of different types of love, but it's also a chance for Rick to look back on his life because there's a lot that happened in his past and him kind of reconnecting with these different ideas of love. Beautifully written. Beautifully put together for a memoir. Like I was really engrossed. It's a really life-affirming book. I related a lot. Rick grew up in regional Queensland on a farm as a closeted gay kid. And so a lot of the stuff in here really resonated for me as a gay man. And I just really life-affirming and really like uplifting, but also heartbreaking. I think I gave this one 4.5 stars. Really loved it. Alrighty, and the last book that I read last month was Dark Money by Jane Mayer. This book is kind of old news. It came out in 2016. It's about a secret group of billionaires in the US who are attempting and succeeding to buy political control. Quite an alarming read, and a lot of the stuff in here I already knew because it's kind of public knowledge now, but taking a deep dive into some of this stuff, quite scary. It's almost like a horror thriller novel. Just hearing what's going on, it's crazy. Quite a nice like expose. There's a lot of economic jargon that I had to Google. I still had a good time reading this. A good scary time reading this. I gave this one 4 stars, I think. Alrighty, so that is everything that I read last month. Now we're gonna get into my TBR Reaping. Where are my jars? My TBR Reaping for May. As I said, this month is my birthday. I really hope these jars don't fuck with this month because that would ruin my birthday. But we'll see. I'm sure you already know, but if you don't, I've been doing this thing where I draw 1 tab out of each of these jars. One of the jars is filled with everything that I haven't read on my bookshelf yet, and the other one is like a reading prompt for the month, and I do both, I read both, and we see what happens. So, I'm gonna start with my TBR jar of everything that I haven't read on my bookshelf. So let's do it. I'm thinking, my favorite color is blue, and since it's my birthday month, I think we're gonna do blue. Let's do this one. Oh, okay. Interesting. So the book that I pulled out of my TBR jar is Monogamy by Sue Miller. I bought this book at the start of this year, I think, just because I really like the cover. I think it's really nice. I don't really know anything about it. A novel about marriage, family, secrets, and love. Cool. I don't really want to know too much about it. Daisy Buchanan really liked it. And Tessa Hadley. Okay, well, cool. I'm going to chuck that on my TBR for this month. Okay, and now onto the reading prompt jar for May. Let's see. Shall we do blue again? This could ruin everything. Oh, but it's my birthday this month. I don't want to do this. Okay, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I had so much planned for this month and this has just ruined everything. Okay, so the prompt that I pulled out is read at least 30% middle grade. So on average, I read like 9-10 books. So I'm gonna have to read at least 3 middle grade books, I guess. I think that would be safe to say. Luckily, I do have 1 middle grade book on my TBR for this month already. I'm just gonna have to find another 2. So I do know there is another middle grade book that came out this month that I'm actually interested in. So I've got 2 in my head. Let's talk about them. The first is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I don't know much about this one. All I know is that everyone has recommended it to me, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna really enjoy it. A lot of people I trust really love this book. All I really know is something to do with magic, a queer main character, I think, and a lot of fun. It's supposed to be really fun and really heartwarming, so I'm really keen to read this one. Also, there's another middle grade book that came out this month. I think it's called The Secret Detectives. I really love the jacket, and it's supposed to be another excellent one. It's about like these kids witness someone being pushed overboard on a ship, and when they alarm the captain does a head count and there's like no one missing. So the kids have got to figure out, well, who got pushed over the edge, and they've got to figure it out before they dock, because then obviously the killer will escape. It sounds really good. Apparently it's really excellent. So that's 2. I will have to think of another one. We'll see at the end of the month. I'll come up with another one, I'm sure. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's talk about everything else that I want to read in May. So the first book that I'm planning on reading in May is Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson. As you know at the start of this video, I read Peter Swanson's other book, Rules for Perfect Murders, last month, and I loved it. So this is going to be my, there's a hair on it. This is going to be like my first step into jumping into his back catalogue of work. This is his latest novel. It came out last month, I think. It's about a bride whose dream honeymoon starts off with a nightmare when the man she had like a regrettable one-night stand with just before her wedding shows up on her honeymoon to cause havoc. So sounds good. I really, really enjoyed Peter Swanson's other books, so I'm sure I'll like this one. And then depending how I go on this one, I'll probably jump into Peter Swanson's other books because I bought them all. As you can see, unfortunately, I could only get these 3 in paperback, which is fine. And his first book I didn't get because I heard bad things. So we'll see how we go with these first, and then maybe I'll go back and read his first book. Yeah. Then the next book that I want to read, and the next author I want to kind of do a bit of a deep dive into, is Ruth Ware. I read her latest 2 books in March, I think, One by One and Turn of the Key, and I really, really enjoyed them. So I'm hoping to jump into her back catalogue. I'm going to start with her first book, just to mix things up, In a Dark, Dark Wood. This book is about Nora, who hasn't seen her ex-friend Claire for 10 years, when suddenly an invitation to her hen's night appears in her mailbox. So of course, Nora goes, and it's really weird apparently, and some secrets come out and some weird stuff happens. Like I said, I really enjoyed Ruth Ware's other 2 books, so I'm really keen to read this one. And then I'm going to read her other, I think there's 3 more after that, which I have one of. I have The Lying Game, which is the 3rd or 4th book, I think, but it's damaged. I just got a damaged copy from work, so I need to buy the other ones. The next book I want to read is a true crime book, and it's I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is about the Golden State Killer who terrorized California for like 10 years. And Michelle McNamara was the woman who was running like a podcast that was investigating the whole thing. But sadly, Michelle McNamara died while investigating, and she never really got to finish this book, but it was all kind of compiled together by her research team after she passed away, and it was published. Apparently it's excellent, and it's a really like a portrait of an investigator's obsession with the case. And it's introduced by Gillian Flynn, who wrote Gone Girl. So that'll be good. And there's also an HBO documentary series now. Apparently, according to this sticker, I didn't know that. So probably watch that after I read this. Every time I do one of these TBRs, there's always a few books that I just don't get to, and I just hope you guys forget about them. But I'm sure you don't. So there's a few books now that I haven't read. And I promised that I would read them the past few months. So we're going to quickly go through them. The first one is, of course, Gone Girl, who I promised you guys I would read like 3 or 4 months now. So I'm definitely really, really want to get to this month. It's going to be like my birthday treat. Well, is it a treat because I keep putting it off? I think I'm just really intimidated because this is supposed to be such a like fantastic book. I'm sure I'm going to love it. I need to get to it. And then we have 2 YAs, which I was supposed to read last month. The Boy from the Mish by Gary Lonesborough and She's Too Pretty to Burn by Wendy Hurd. Gonna hopefully read them this month. Not hopefully, definitely. Alrighty, and those are all the books that I'm hoping to read in May. I said there wasn't many because I wanted freedom this month, but I lied. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you're reading this month, and yeah, I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!